When they arrived to Angarsk, the city was just beginning to be built up. It was built by the convicts. There were a number of gulags, labor camps, in that area, with more than 100,000 prisoners. Lenny even remembers how the convicts were brought for work in columns, German prisoners of war and other inmates, men and women separately. All residential buildings built at that time were two-story and painted pink. Eventually, Lenny's family got a two-room apartment in one of such houses. These houses formed a courtyard. There were a lot of different age kids in these houses, and all of them came out to play. One had to fight for the place in the yard. There was a certain hierarchy, determined most of all by strength. So, of course, older boys had more power. If somebody couldn't fit in the hierarchy, he would have a bad life. There were three strongest guys in the yard by the name of Vanka, who was Russian, Vaska, who was Ukrainian, and Larik, Buryat. Vaska, although he was much older, for some reason liked Lenny. One day, he put his arm around Lenny's shoulders and said, "If somebody touches you, just let me know and I will deal with them." Lenny has a lot of stories about his Angarsk life. The winters are brutal over there, with the temperatures going down below to minus 40 degrees. Fresh milk and eggs were available only in summers. In winter, the milk was sold frozen on a stick. As for the eggs, the stores were selling an egg powder, apparently because eggs would get frozen during transportation. Once in winter, when he was about 10 years old, Lenny fell through a utility manhole, which was left open. Fortunately, when falling, he spread his elbows and thus hung over the hole. His lower body immersed in warm water. As he understands now, the hole was connected to the city's heating system. In Angarsk, the houses were heated with hot water. He pulled himself up out of the hole. His pants started to freeze immediately and formed like an insulating layer, keeping his body warm. When Lenny got home, he quietly went to the bathroom and took off the wet clothes. Everything looked like he'd been crawling in the snow for a long time, so no questions were asked, and he never told his parents about this incident. You who are watching now are the first ones to hear this story. In the mornings, Lenny and his mom took Lenny's younger brother Mitya to the kindergarten. One morning, Lenny, about 7 at that time, and Mitya, about 3, came out of the house and waited for their mom. Lenny put Mitya in the sled. The sled had metal backrest. Mitya, all wrapped up in his fur coat, scarf, hat, mittens, etc., fell on his side in the sledge and licked the metal part of the backrest with his tongue. Instantly, his tongue got stuck to the metal. Lenny saw that and pulled him with all his might. This worked. Mitya's tongue and the sledge got separated, but Mitya was crying and there was blood on his tongue. At that time, Mama came out and the three of them ran to the medical emergency. Mitya, of course, had a fast ride on the sled. It was early in the morning, but there were two young guys at the emergency center. They listened to the problem, made serious faces, and clucked their tongues. Ay, 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 what an incident. But if you think you do not want this young fellow anymore, we'll take him. He can stay with us. In winter and dry snow, kids and adults in Russia wore traditional felt boots made from the sheep's wool and called valenki. To reduce wear and tear, separate soles were sewn on to valenki. Once the soles of Lenny's valenki got busted, his mom took them for mending to the cobbler, whose nickname was Old Man Moscow. Old Man Moscow was always slightly drunk and sober only when the money ran dry. Lenny's mom made a tactical mistake, having paid Old Man Moscow in advance. When she came in the evening, he was out of it, drunk as a lord. So the next day, Lenny had to skate to school. Luckily, the advanced paid money ran out rather quickly, and Lenny got his valenki back. There were no synagogues and no churches either in Angarsk. But for Passover, their family usually had matzah. Apparently, it was produced in Irkutsk, a big and old Siberian city. Lenny took some matzah outside to treat his friends. The boys then were asking, "Do you have more of these cookies?" When Lenny was around 12, one older boy suggested to Lenny and his friend, "Let's build a slide for the winter." The three of them dug in 3 logs to support the slide, then got boards from the abandoned construction site. Nails were in short supply in Angarsk, so they brought in some wooden crates that were lying around a nearby store. These crates were nailed together. They pulled the nails out with pliers and then straightened them with hammers. Of course, this is a rather short description of the whole process. You can ask Lenny for details, but eventually they ended up building a wooden slide. When winter came and the slide was watered down, it froze, got icy and slippery and wonderful to ride. Some riders rolled down the slide on a piece of cardboard, but most of them on their butts or stomachs or feet. High schoolers and youth rolled down on their feet in pairs with girls. The guys gallantly supported girls by the waist. In Lenin's memories of Angarsk, there was one guy who holds a special place. His name was Vitya or Vitka, and he was 2-3 years older than Lenny. Vitka was small in stature, but by the time he was 13-14, he would already hit on older girls. "Will you, Dash?" To which they snorted in disdain, "Kidi, malaletak." Vitka, however, had a girlfriend by the name Tosia. She lived on the 2nd floor and had a balcony. Vitka would get on the top of the slide, which was in the middle of the yard, turn towards Tosia's balcony, whistle with 2 fingers, and start singing loudly, to the amusement of all residents. He sang,
Тося моя, любишь ли ты меня? Если не любишь, сердце погубишь, я утоплюсь за тебя.
As soon as Vitka would start singing, Tosia would instantly come out onto the balcony as if she'd been waiting for this moment all alone. Lenny remembers one of his birthdays when the other boys gave him candy and other sweets, but Vitya gave him a beautifully published book in a good binding about a war hero. Vitka lived with his mother. When he was 14, his mother passed away. Vitka cried bitterly. He was left all alone. In Angarsk, in addition to school, Lenny was involved in several clubs: track and field, carpentry, and photography. He was the youngest on the track and field team, but was the best in the long jump. Training from early spring took place in the floodplain of the Kitoy River, a tributary of the Angara River, where there were hills up to 100 feet high. The boys would run up and down the hills and swim in Kitoy River, starting from when there was still ice floating in it. Lenny is very fond of his woodworking experience at the carpentry club. Making wooden figurines, pieces of furniture, sofas, armchairs, they would make these pieces, polish them, paint, and varnish. Their instructor was an older man. There is no picture of him, but he resembled this actor very much. The instructor trusted these boys completely. He would give them the keys to the workshop, and the boys would be there from morning until night and on weekends when the instructor was not even there. Now Lenny cannot understand how this guy could be so unwary. The workshop was full of electric carpentry tools like lathe, drilling, emery, and other machines. Obviously, the tort lawyers were scarcely represented and basically unheard of in Angarsk at that time, and this aspect never occurred to Lenny's instructor. The boys, however, enjoyed this gift of freedom and benefited from trying, making mistakes, and learning. Lenny received photo camera as a gift and signed up for the photo class. At that time, producing photographs was a long and laborious process. The cameras were film cameras. To take a picture, one had to adjust the aperture and shutter speed manually. In a dark room, one had to develop the film, and then again in a dark room, you could print the pictures, employing many other additional devices and chemicals. Their apartment's closet was given to Lenny as a photo workshop. And he did produce photos, taking pictures of Angarsk and his friends. Some of those photographs have survived the time and many family moves.